20 years, and we just finally couldn't handle enough items. And I don't blame people. You're used to seeing 12, 15,000 items, and I can handle 4. But as far as pricing was, I went with Associated Grocers, and they had 3 prices. They had rural, they had city, and they had discount. My store was at discount prices. I beat Safeway, A&P, Kroger's. I beat all their prices. But when the box stores came in, and I'm talking about like Food for Less and the Checkers now you have, when I saw what they were going to sell their stuff for, I couldn't compete with them. So I was smart enough. I had a guy who ended up being the president of Associated Grocers, which put all the big chains out of business around here. Associated Grocers is what runs Safeway, A&P, Kroger's, run them all out. They had the Price Choppers, they had Thriftway, Apple Markets. They just got huge. And I had him tell me, he said, Jim, always keep track of your books, because many a grocer thought he could retire and found out he owed more than what he had. He said, you handle so much money, it's so easy to not have it. But back in the old days, we were an old little neighborhood grocery store. We gave free credit, which you don't find today anymore, and we delivered groceries free. And I have a hard time like my mother. My mother would not tip. I'll tip. But I delivered groceries for years, carried groceries out. We never got tips back in those days. You know, just part of the service that we gave. And when I left, you know, I had about $1,100 that I didn't collect. And one lady lived behind the store, and she bought every ounce of grocery that she bought was from my store. And I knew she couldn't start over and pay cash. And I never will forget going out in the alley, and Shirley come out, and she was crying, said, Jim, I said, I know you can't pay it, and I just tore it up. I said, you were good customers. But my wife always said I was too good-hearted. I was smart enough to know if a guy was trying to hustle me. One time I was in the store, and this guy come in driving a Cadillac suit and tie. He said, I'd like to write a check for $200. Well, it was a Kansas City check. And I said, no, I don't accept checks out of state. He said, man, my check's good. I'm worth, he was trying to tell me how rich he was. I said, that's not it. I just don't accept out of it. But I just was suspicious of him. Merlin had the store down the street, and Merlin cashed his check. Merlin said, Jim, that guy told me you wouldn't cash his check. What's the matter with you? I said, I don't know. I just something suspicious about that guy. Merlin said, man, driving a Cadillac and dressed in suit and tie, this guy got a lot of money. A week later, Merlin said he didn't even have a checking account. But if a man would come in with his kids and say, Jim, my kids haven't eaten in 3 days, I'd say, fill your grocery cart up. We had a lady move in one time. She was a single mother and had 4 kids who lived over here just down from where Phil is. And the old, not Alley Melbourne, but what house was down there? Them 2 old gals lived there, just down from your original house, Phil. You remember who they were?
I remember them, but were they a brother and a sister?
No, it was 2 sisters. It was maybe it was Allie Milburn and her sister, but anyway.
They were brothers and sisters, yeah.
Anyway, this gal lived in their house, and they had nothing. So it was Christmas time, and I took 2 big bags of groceries, everything you could want for Christmas to her. And she said, what's this? And I said, I had a contest and you won. And the kids were happy and smiling and laughing. And I started to go in, and she said, no, I don't accept charity. I didn't enter any contest. I said, but I entered for you and you won. She said, you get them groceries out of here. And when I left, I heard them kids crying. I wanted to go in and slap that gal out in the face, you know, for being so, hurting her kids. But we did a lot of good things for the town that a lot of people don't know. I donated to every cause, and it got so bad, I had the cheerleaders from Lawrence High come down one time. And they said, we'd like you to donate 20 pounds of meat to our, and I said, no, I'm not going to, sweetheart. She says, why not? I says, nobody from Lawrence shops here. And she said, but we need the meat. And I said, I know you do, honey, but go to them stores in Lawrence where you're buying your groceries. You know? So there was times when I did well. Times we made money and times we didn't. But it was an enjoyable experience. You got to meet the public. And I always tried to be friendly with everybody. Sometimes you couldn't, but it's a sad thing that Eudora only has really one grocery store. We got, what, 6,000 to 7,000 people. You know, we moved here in the mid-40s. We had 4 grocery stores. We had 7 filling stations. We had a shoe shop. We had a theater. You know, we had beer joint. I mean, Eudora was booming. On Saturday nights when you come down Main Street, every business had the fights on. Boy, boxing was big. I was a Joe Louis fan. And I can remember the Harris and the Johnson brothers boxing on Main Street. We, in the summertime, put a ring up there on Main Street, and they'd have real fights. And Albert always beat the Johnson boy, and I always thought, I'll take Albert someday. I'll get up there and take him. But Eudora was a bustling community. And then, of course, the highways get better, the cars get faster, and we're just a bedroom community now. There's people I've met here in Eudora don't even know there's a downtown. They get their mail at their house, they bank somewhere else. They've never been downtown Eudora. It's a shame. And I don't know how we're ever going to stop it, but it's just something that's, modern technology just runs old towns. And we're caught in it, and we're not going to be able to stop it, I'm afraid. But I enjoyed all the customers that I had. I loved every one of them, and thought of them as a family, and carried them, some of them, for years, you know. Then you had the guys that you just couldn't pay. You couldn't get even with. Freddie Treffs, that doggone Freddie, he come to my house and he put a new wall furnace in, he put a garbage disposal in, 2 hot water tanks, and hooked up our new laundry when I built my room, and never would send me a bill. So I would carry him, and then he'd slip in and pay it. And I'd say, Dad, don't take any of his money. I owe him a lot of money. But Freddie was funny, you know. He just was a funny guy. I guess he had more money than he had sense. But I never did get to pay Freddie when he died. And I thought, man, I ought to give his kids some money. But you develop friendships, and my dad and Freddie were best friends when they were young. They grew up that way, and I think sometimes we're moving so fast that we don't develop those kind of friendships anymore. And the older I get, the more I accept the faults of all my classmates, because I never had them. Phil and I went to school together 13 years. I wasn't smart enough when we went together 18. But, you know, Cletus, I remember Cletus, he was a good ball player, and we all wanted to be like Cletus when we were in school. He had all the girls after him. You know? But yeah, Benny was in school with me, Richard. Dwayne, I played with his dad, the first band I ever played in 1955. I was 15 years old. And the first break I ever played, we played the community building, and it was packed. And I played my break on the sax in the wrong key. A steel guitar player by the name of Bob Gibber was standing here, and I turned to Bob and I said, Bob, I apologize being in the wrong key. He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, kid, you're going to be all right. He said, you didn't stop, you didn't mess the band up. He said, 500 people out there and only us 5 up here knew you were in the wrong key. So, I still play in the wrong key. I might play a couple songs here. I'll try to play a couple old songs maybe you guys have heard before. Hopefully. I grew up on them in the 40s, and I'm sure everybody remembers music in the 40s and stuff.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Lynn.
We learned a little bit about the store. Any questions?
Yes, what year did you close the store?
1980,
1980?
When
And
did you
did
take
Dad
over?
turn it over to you?
in 74. Well, actually, I did it all over. Dad hurt his back in 65 building our house. I didn't know nothing about meat cutting. Dad said, "You got to learn to cut meat." I'll tell you. So in a week's time, I learned how to cut meat.
Did Newsbomb have a,
No, Otis Wolf did.
and then Newsbomb.
Yeah, it was News Bombs before that. Then Casmar before News Bombs.
I think they're John
What year did you
lived down here.
1960.
Corner.
Well, my folks owned the store back in the 40s. They moved back here in 45. And they owned the Clover Farm store, which was the other side of the street.
How you doing?
And they kept it, they had Jack Howard. And they got it out in 53 and sold it to my cousin Glenn. And then he took Joe Hargrave in the department, and then they had Glenn Wilson, myself. So we had two little stores.
Bill Hargrave, he lost a daughter. Now Newsbomb, there's a bunch of them.
There is an old cave underneath that store. I didn't know it was there.
Lost a daughter to cancer.
But when we remodeled it, there's a crawl space, and nobody would ever go into that crawl space because it's dirt.
Graduation high.
So I had to crawl in there,
3
because
months later.
Freddie was doing some wiring,
Up there too.
and my gosh, I got to the end of the building, and here was this, oh, you could stand up about like this, big cave with concrete, went out about 15 feet,
Then right after
Then in the middle of it,
was away somewhere. I
there was a round hole about that big, it went right up towards Main Street, but it had been concreted in, but you could see where, so I don't know if that was part of what they always said was the, that was kind of,
Was that in front of the store, under Main Street?
no, it was to the side of the store. It was to the side, it went out the side under that back porch that used to be on there. I don't know if it's still there or not. Whether you go to the apartments up above, went out to the south of the store and then headed up towards the sidewalk. Could have been, I don't know. Yeah, that could have been, but I don't know how they ever got back in there. It was pretty spooky. Yeah, yeah.
Where did you keep your stock for the store? Did you?
We had a
did you
back
have
room,
everything
we had a
out?
back room. I was pretty smart, I knew coffee, I had a coffee salesman come in one time, he said, "Jim, coffee's gonna go sky high." I ordered $1,000 worth of coffee, and Dad said, "Jim, you've lost your mind." I said, "Dad, we're gonna make a lot of money on this coffee, finally. You only make 10% on coffee, you know." Boy, coffee went to like 99 cents a can, up to $8 a can, and I'm just a smiling. And I'm the only one that's got coffee. I ordered a bunch of it.
What do you think of the price of the building now?
Oh, I don't know. It's, I sold it for $35,000, and Dr. Lauber a year later sold it for $100,000, but he was smarter than I was. Apartments, they were there for years, and it was a shame. I don't know how those people in World War II, they lived up there. And I had classmates when I was in grade school. Phil remembers some of them. One girl was just gorgeous. And I'm not gonna rat on how these guys did. Anyway, when I went up there, the pipes run above the floors, and it only had 2 bathrooms for 6 apartments. And you had to go out in the hallway, so there was no privacy. They weren't very nice, but people lived there. Lived there back in World War II.
They lived in tents.
Right.
Chicken houses, garages.
Yes.
Which building was that, Jim? I mean,
What?
which building was that?
The building here on the corner.
Oh, is it where you, that,
Where the grocery store was, right?
yeah, I remember that when it's just a raw front on it, you know, and
Yeah.
walkways in there.
Yeah.
Old Frank Schuster lived there, that old man that's been here for 10 years.
And Mrs. Pilla, she was still alive, his daughter. And I'd take groceries over there, and she just had me set them on the door. I never got to meet her. She didn't want nobody going in the house. But when she died, it was in what, 64 or whatever, they held her auctions. And I could have bought that house for $3,900. My grandfather said, "Jim, it's too cheap." And I said, "Grandpa, it would cost $15,000 to fix it up." That was unheard of money, you know, back in the 60s. And so we didn't buy it, but I did steal the piano out of there. They had everything sold except the piano inside the house. And I'm on the porch, I'm on crutches, I hurt myself playing ball. And the guy said, is there anything left in the house? And the guy said, yeah, the piano. I said, let's go in and sell it. And I don't know who went in with me, maybe John Landon or I were the only two that went inside. And I bought the piano and the stool for $100. It was a Steinway, an 1899 Steinway. And when I'm walking out, a guy said, is that piano sale? And I said, yes. He said, I'll give you $200 for the stool. I said, oh, that scared me when he thought, I thought, man, if it's worth $200 to him, what's the stool worth, you know? I still have that piano and that stool. But my wife ruined the piano back in the days in the 60s when it was antiquing was popular. She antiqued that thing. You know? So its value is highly diminished. But those are the good old days. Lots of fun and lots of heartaches. Boy, there was times when my dad never smoked. He quit smoking when he was 25. But I'd go in the back of the office, and if I'd see a pack of Lucky Strikes with 2 cigarettes missing, I knew bad times were tough. And I'd say, Dad, what's the problem? Oh, I don't know if we can make our payment to the bank. I said, oh yeah, we'll make it, Dad. And Dad said, well, that makes me feel better because you're always right, Jim. You know, we had, my mother would never, bless her heart, she's in the nursing home up here, and she's going to outlive me. She's going to live another 15 years, and my doctor says I won't. But anyway, she just didn't like change. She had too much pride up in her. And so Dad and I would plot, and we'd get things done without her knowing it, and then after it's done, she'd like it. But she would, if you'd say, Mom, we're going to expand, oh no, we're not going to spend any money doing that, you know. She was against anything with progress. Bless her heart. But Dad and I, we always finagled around her pretty well.
Where was your office in the building?
It was in the very back, and it was just a
South
small.
side or the north side?
No, it was on the west side of the building. The very back, right next to this door here, if you went in the back door, you make a right and go back in there. It was just a one-man type office, and they'd have a bathroom back there. And then on the other side where we candled eggs. I candled eggs for years, and finally the doggone inspectors come to me and they said, Jim, you got these eggs in here upside down. And I said, I got them what? He said, they're not right side up. And he showed me, he said, the small end of the egg's got to be down. And I said, well, I didn't know that, you know. So then he come in and he said, Jim, we can't accept brown eggs anymore. I said, what? My Aunt Wilma was a great cook in Eudora, and she wouldn't cook with anything but brown eggs. That was always the best egg you could have. They wouldn't accept them. I got so tired with the state coming in because I was one of the last guys to buy farmers' eggs. And they just didn't want me doing it. That's what they did. They got tired of me, so I just finally had to give up, buy the cold storage eggs that everybody else was selling.
And now the price of brown eggs is higher than white eggs.
Yes, right.
Well, Elsie used to do the eggs in there for everybody in years, a lot of years ago.
Yes, oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, no, I don't. That's for my time. Yeah.
But I remember them.
And when we sold that store, I threw away antiques like you wouldn't believe. Old signs and stuff. Didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't put them in antiques. I took them down to the dump and pitched them. I probably had 10 cases of DDT that was full bottles. I said, well, that'll never be worth anything. Well, today it'd probably be worth a lot of money if you have a full bottle of DDT. And some people like to use it. You know, it's like they did away with chloridane. My gosh, I sprayed my yard every year, 3 or 4 times a year with chloridane. And my dogs never died, my kids never got sick, I never got sick. And we abused it. We'd use it so much. Now we can't have chloridane. Now we got all
Derek
alternatives.
Barnes said we should spray the DDT.
What were the other grocery stores? You said there were 4.
Well, back in the old days, Gerstenberg's, there was 3 uptown. There was News Bombs and Mom and Dad's.
Fred Walker.
And Gerstenberg's were in the middle of the street, down by where the barber shop used to be. And then up on Highway 10 there, off of Maple, that apartment house now,
Doherty.
Gene Doherty had a grocery store there.
Well, there used to be a Doherty where Piles and Mint Markets too, wasn't there?
No, that's always been Bicklemeyer's, I think. That's always Bicklemeyer's.
It was Doherty before.
Was it Bicklemeyer's?
Bickmeyer bought it to Doherty.
Did they? Okay. Well, I know it was, Eudora had we had 2 hardware stores.
Yeah.
Coleman, Lawrence.
What's the population then?
I had one too. And that was before my time. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I worked for Carl Valley for 9 years, and I bought all my groceries at Howard Wilson's, his son.
Thank you very much. I know she did, because she gave me a bad time. Jim, look at this produce. I'm gonna knock off, okay, I'll let you have it. Yeah, Bill's a good customer, yes, I
And
appreciate
good
it.
cut. My brother got her
Yes.
from school up there.
Oh, yes,
He always asked about her. That's good, that good cooking she did.
right.
And your mother can still play me again.
Oh,
Yes, she can.
That's the only
But
school
you
in
know
the
what
state
the shame
of
of it
Kansas
is?
paid for kids' lunches, Jim.
You know,
Only school in the state of Kansas paid for the kids' lunches.
Yeah,
right,
they were all free.
you know, mother, her mind, she can see what's going on around her. And she'll say, Jim, I don't belong in here. Well, I can understand that, but you can see everybody else's out of it. But if I leave and go to the bathroom, turn around and come back 2 minutes later, she don't know I've been there. She has dementia. And she'll say to me, I'm damn mad, I wanna go home. And I'll say, okay, Mom, you wanna go today or tomorrow? She'll say, well, you think I can stay by myself? And I said, Mom, that's not for me to say, that's up to you. And she'll realize that she can't. She'll say, I better stay here. But I don't blame her, because she can see all them people, and she can't visit with anybody, because most of them can't talk. And then mother gets mad. You cannot, my mother had never made a mistake in her life. You know, I always said how lucky she was to marry Dad. She said, no, Dad was lucky to marry me. I said, no, Mom, you don't understand. No other man would have lived with you over a month than my dad. She said, why? I said, because men don't like being told where to do it, and when to do it, and how to do it. They like to be able to think on their own once in a while. My dad was just a saint with my mother. He just put up with her. And the nursing home called me 3 or 4 times one day, and they said, Jim, your mother is completely out of hand. Do we need to get her on medicine? And I said, well, what happened? Well, somebody said she missed a note playing the piano. I said, oh, do not criticize my mother. That's a no-no. You know, don't. She's never made a mistake, and you gotta realize that. So you don't tell her that she did something wrong, because boy, my cousin Larry Wilson, he always thought that I was exaggerating until one time I had my mother at Cecil Mondays and I was playing there, and I smoked, and Larry quit smoking and he hated smoke. And so I saw him come in, so I moved from the table where I sat to another table. And Larry sat down, was visiting with Mother, and Mother said, Jim, come on over and sit over here. I said, no, Larry's sitting there and I'm smoking, Mom. Well, that's all right, come over here. Larry turned to her and said, no, he can't sit here, he's smoking. Oh man, Mother jumped up, stuck her finger right in his face, said, you don't tell my son where he can sit. He can sit anywhere he wants to. Boy, Larry just was odd, you know, and I said, now, you know what I put up with, Larry, now you understand. I got a whipping every day I was at home. It was so bad the teachers wouldn't rat on me because they knew somebody would kill me at home. Mother, I even got whipping when I was a kid when I didn't lie. When I was 4 years old, when we moved back here, we lived on a dirt floor. It was an old wash house here, just down on Maple Street, close to where Dwayne bought a rental house there in the corner. It was right next to it. That little house was just a dirt floor, two rooms. In the wintertime, the big rats, that big, great northern rats, would come under that floor. And Mom would tie my sister in my arms in bed, arms and feet in bed, because she didn't want them dangling down, afraid the rats would chew them. So we go to church, and Reverend Whitensaw's the minister, old German minister. And he said to me, Jim, where's your dad today? And I said, oh, him and Jack, all right. Him and Jack are down there killing rats at our house. I got outside the church, and that mother whipped me. Why are you talking to the minister about that? I said, Mom, he asked me where Dad was. I get home, and she told Dad, and Dad putting the belt to me. Oh, man, I'm saying, but Dad, did you want me to lie to the preacher? You know? Couldn't win at home. But I probably deserved it. I wasn't destructive, but I guess I was honored.
You had a good dad, Jim.
Yes, I did. Wonderful dad. I had wonderful parents. I was lucky. And Eudora was a great place to raise kids. I raised my kids here. I just think it's a great town.
What's the
Great town.
population then, you remember?
It's 600.
I remember when it was 300,
Wait, four grocery stores.
Theater, shoe shop, 7 filling stations. Down where at Leavenworth Mutual, there was a filling station there. And there was one where, next to your building there where the car wash is. On both sides of the school, there was a Standard on one side and Skilly on the other.
I know him there then.
Yes, that was Harry Edwards' garage.
Harry Edwards' garage, yeah.
He was the Ford man in town, and then where the grocery store was at last, that was Chevrolet garage. I bought 3 cars from that Chevrolet garage. All the Brewers. All that. Oh, yeah. And Rothberger had it ahead of him. They said when they sold that building, Rothberger had a 35 Chevy or something in the basement of that thing, just like that. Never been driven.
We cut potatoes in the all winter. I kept in the winter time, so I really.
Oh, yeah, put it down in that basement.
Remember that?
Yeah, no, I don't remember that. That was my dad's time. They had no potatoes when I moved back, because our potatoes had big eyes.
That was a 28 Chevrolet.
Is that what that was, Eddie? Oh, yeah.
I drove it in the parade.
You're kidding.
How'd it get in the basement?
It was a drive down, drive down there.
An elevator.
Yeah, Eddie worked for years did you work for Rothberger too, and Homer? I remember I bought a 60 Chevy and Eddie cussed me because I put a full Continental kit on it, and Eddie made Eddie put that he said, "What the guy, fool's gonna have this thing on the back of this thing, I'm working my butt off for this."
That was true.
Yeah, it was one of a kind, Eddie, I've never seen another one like it. Y'all got a lot of good friends in this room.
I know, I cut potatoes for Les Kidder,
Yes,
Geek Nice,
yep,
that was my
I
job.
worked with Geek a lot. Bob wouldn't do nothing, he had to do all the work. Bob
I've
walked.
been with him all his life, you know.
Well, thank you, folks.
Well, yeah. I know you want to